what's going on, guys? This is Mike with Simple Freedom with Mike, back at it with another video today. Another election video. This is going to be a quick video because there's not a lot that's come out, okay? There's not a lot of election news today as far as polling. It's Sunday, so there'll be more tomorrow. There was on 538, I seen a Connecticut poll that had Biden up by like 27. But that's Connecticut. Obviously, that's a safe blue state. I want to go into the battlegrounds and just show you how close it still is right now, guys. Minnesota has Biden up 7 right now. But if we go back to 2016, I want to show you also how close the polls were not off. Really, there was a couple states, and Minnesota was one of them. But honestly, all the other polls were pretty much dead on or within the margin of error. So, and I want to show you that right now. Clinton ended up winning by 1.5. So, and she was up in the last poll by 10. So, you know, obviously that was a little off. But right now they have the average. Let's go back to Minnesota. They have the average spread is Biden plus 7 right now, and there's been a few polls that has had him up 16, 13, but it's got a little closer as we get to election day, and it's going to get closer, guys. It's going to tighten. It's going to happen. Pennsylvania, okay? Biden up 6.4 right now. The last poll had him up 9. There was a couple polls that had him up 4, 6. Biden's led pretty much throughout Pennsylvania. There's been a tie once. Trump was up 4 once. But still, Trump's made a comeback in Carolina. He can make a comeback here. If we go back to 2016, this is a poll. I tell people the polls were really not that off. Clinton was only up 1.9 in the average. Trump ended up winning it by less than a point. But the fact is that was well within the margin of error. Some of these polls, the margin of error is 5%. But so this was well within the margin of error. So was that off? Were the polls wrong? Not really. Especially 2018, they did a lot of work on the polls, and they were they were pretty much right, besides maybe a couple polls in Florida. But honestly, the polls, I knew going into election night until 2016 that this was going to be a close election. And it was. I mean, the election came down to 3 states that Trump won by less than 100,000 votes. He won Pennsylvania by 30,000 votes. He won Michigan by only like 11 or 12,000. He won Wisconsin only by like 20,000. So it came down to the wire. So, and the polls were pretty dead on. They said it was going to be close. Clinton had a thin lead, and Trump was able to pull it off. And let's remember, Clinton was a flawed candidate. I don't think Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are nearly as flawed as Hillary Clinton was. You know, Kamala Harris has her haters, Joe Biden has her haters, but I just don't think they're as flawed as Hillary Clinton was. But I still think a lot of Bernie voters are going to stay home, which I don't understand. You know, it's like you bitched about Donald Trump for 3.5 years, and you're not going to take the chance to vote him out, or you're going to vote for somebody that doesn't stand a chance in winning. I mean, I get it. Like I said in my last video, you know, your dignity and all that, but I just really have never understood that. So Trump won Pennsylvania by 0.7 in 2016, and Clinton only led by 1.9. So it was well within the margin of error. But as of right now, Biden has a 6.4 lead. Michigan, Biden is up 6.7, so almost 7 points. If you go back to 2016, I think Clinton was up 3.4. Trump ended up winning it by 0.3. So, I mean, slim. But again, within the margin of error. I mean, it was well within the margin of error that Trump was able to pull off the win. So the poll was off in a sense, but not really. So Biden does lead almost by 7 points in Michigan right now. In Florida, Biden still leads by 5 points. If you go back to 2016, On this poll, actually, no, that's 2012. We're going way back now. Let's go back to 2016. Trump was up barely, and he only won by a little over a point. So, again, polls are right. If we go to Wisconsin, let's go to Wisconsin. This is a state that was way off. Biden leads by 6.5 right now. As of right now, Biden leads by almost 7 points. But if we go back to 2016, there it is. That was way off. And I was surprised. When Trump won Wisconsin, I was floored. So that's why you have to don't trust the polls. If you want your candidate to win, get out and vote. Register, vote, get out and vote. Because that's just the only way. If you don't vote, you can't bitch. So I've always said that. That's a saying of mine. If you don't vote, you can't bitch. So if you don't vote on November 3rd and your candidate loses, and then you want to bitch about the guy who wins a year from now, shut up, because you had your chance and you didn't vote. So that's the way I feel. So as you can see there, the Wisconsin poll in 2016 was absolutely way off. So that is one of the polls that were off. Arizona right now, I think Biden has a 2-point lead. Biden has led pretty much throughout, besides a few polls. It's been tied a couple times, but Trump has had some good polls these last. He's up by 1. Biden up by 1. Biden was up by 4 in the last poll, so we'll see if that average ticks up a bit. But if we go back to 2016, again, it was pretty dead on. Trump ended up winning by 3.5. The average had him up 4, so he actually lost a little bit of the vote. But still, it was pretty much dead on the polling. So, and here's the thing, guys. Trump was up pretty much all the time in 2016. He was up in 1, 2, 3, 4, tied in that one, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 polls. And Clinton only led in 4. Now, if we compare that to now, look at this. Biden is up in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I can keep on going, but you can see there, Trump's only led in 1, 2, 3, 4. And it's been tied in a couple others. But still, it's a close race. It's anybody's ball game. There's been some big numbers for Biden, but then they drop back down within the margin of error. So it's anybody's ball game come November 3rd. I think McSally and Kelly are going to have a lot to do with this. I think Joe Biden wins Arizona because I think McSally is just not liked at all, and I think Mark Kelly is going to walk all over. I think it's going to be, almost a double-digit win for Kelly. I could be wrong, but he is very well liked in Arizona, and McSally is not. So I think a lot of those Kelly voters are going to vote for Biden. I do expect that maybe some Kelly voters will vote for Trump, but I think most of them will vote for Biden. So I think Biden wins there. We seen Kristen Sinema was able to win the Senate in 2018. We see it trending to the Democrats. So we'll see what happens in 2020. We'll see what happens November 3rd. North Carolina Trump has made a huge comeback in Carolina. He's now up. It's basically a tie. When you look at it, but he's up 0.7. But Biden had a lead. He had a pretty solid lead. But these last few polls, granted, one of them was a right-wing poll, and I think there was 2 right-wing polls. So I don't know, but there was also a CNBC Change Research poll that had him up 1. So it's anybody's ball game. I still think Trump holds on to Carolina. I think Trump holds on to Carolina, and I think he also holds on to Texas. Even though when you look at the Texas polls, guys, Trump. Okay, let's go back to 2016 for a second. And in 2016, I'm trying to get all the way back to the homepage here. If not, we're just going to close out of here and Okay, so Texas. If you look at the Texas polls, Trump's up by 2 points right now. So it's still within the margin of error. But Biden has led in a few of these polls. Okay, Trump's led in pretty much all of them. But let's go back to 2016 and take a look and see if Clinton ever led. Let's just do that for a second. And by the way, Trump had a 12-point lead on the average, and he ended up winning by 9, so he was a little off. But let's take a look and see, did Clinton lead in any of those? No, not at all. So that's why we're saying Biden's able to pick up, Biden's winning in some of these polls. Biden up 1, Biden up 5. Biden up 1, Biden up 2, Biden up 4, Biden up 1. So, but Trump's, they've kind of went back and forth, Biden up 1. Trump plus 6, that's a big one. Trump plus 1, Biden plus 1. Trump plus 4, Biden plus 5. Trump plus 2, Trump plus 1, Biden plus 1, Trump plus 6. So he was able to bring that average back up. At one point, Biden had the average lead. He had the RCP average lead by less than a point, but he was able to take the lead. That doesn't mean shit. It still could go either way, but I'm just telling you, Texas is going to be interesting because if Texas somehow goes blue, forget about it. It's over. You might as well turn the TV off. Donald Trump is not getting reelected. But if Donald Trump holds on to Texas, obviously, they need it. Texas has to go red. It has to go red because if Texas goes blue, California's going blue as well and there's almost 100 electoral votes right there. So, that would be astronomical. It'd be huge if that somehow went blue. But anyway, guys, that's about it. There's not a lot that's came out today. Not at all. I think the last polls were on Friday. And there was one out today from Connecticut on 538 that had Biden up 28, but that's expected. So we'll see what happens. It's going to be interesting. Next week is going to be another crazy week. And, and I'll wait a couple days to let some poll numbers come out. So 2 or 3 days in politics is an eternity. Anything can happen. Last week was a good week for Trump. This week might be a good week for Biden because I think Biden needs a good week because it has, I'm not saying he's had bad weeks, but Trump's had a couple good weeks now. And Biden needs a little bit of a push to get some of these numbers back up. Even though he leads in the average right now by 8 points, basically, with RCP, and with 538, he's up by 8.5. On election day in 2016, Clinton was only up 2 to 3 points on the average. That's another thing to look at. So if Biden's able to keep this lead going into election night, if they're wrong, then some people better be getting fired. Because that'd be horrible. But anyway, who knows? Poll numbers aren't shit these days. You got to get out and vote if you want your guy to win. Anyway, guys, we will be back. Give me a couple days. Let's let some poll numbers come in. Let's let some new polls with the, I don't think there's been any new polls since, as far as there's been polls released, but now that Biden has picked Harris, we'll see if he gets a bump from that or if he doesn't. So we'll see what happens. Remember, register to vote. Get out and vote for whoever you're voting for because remember, if you don't vote, you can't bitch. Thanks, guys. Have a good one.